Daniel had never thought moving to another planet would feel this heavy. When he signed up for the interspecies housing program, the brochures made everything look easy. Unity through living, friendship through sharing. That was the slogan written across the glowing posters. Back on Earth, his friends had joked about it. "You'll get some 8-legged monster as your roommate," one had laughed. "Maybe a slime who eats your pillows," another teased. Daniel laughed along at the time, but inside he was nervous. His whole life he had lived in a small town surrounded by familiar faces. Moving into a dorm room with a stranger from another world was not just new, it was terrifying. The transport ship dropped him off at the Academy's housing station, and a guide walked him down the long hallways to his new quarters. His heart pounded with every step. What if his roommate hated him? What if they didn't even speak the same language? When the door opened, Daniel froze. Standing in the middle of the room was her. She was tall, nearly a head and a half above him, with soft lavender skin that shimmered under the lights like the surface of water at dusk. Her hair, if it could be called that, looked like strands of silver silk flowing down her back. Her eyes were the most striking, deep violet, large and unblinking, with a glow that seemed both calming and unsettling at once. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she tilted her head slightly, and her lips curved into something that might have been a smile. "You are Daniel?" she asked, her voice soft like the hum of a distant flute. He swallowed. Yeah, that's me. I am Lyra," she said, and just like that, they were roommates. The first day passed in awkward silence. Daniel unpacked his clothes and small things from Earth, while Lyra organized her side with neat precision. She hummed sometimes, a low melodic sound that reminded him of wind moving through trees. By evening, Daniel was exhausted. The travel, the nerves, the pressure of starting a new life, it all weighed on him. He climbed into his bed, pulling the thin blanket over himself. The room lights dimmed automatically, leaving only the faint glow of the city outside their window. But sleep didn't come. He stared at the ceiling, his thoughts racing. He missed home already. He missed the familiar creak of the stairs, the soft sound of his mother's humming downstairs, the smell of old books in his father's study. Here everything was alien. Cold walls, strange air filters, humming machinery. The silence was too sharp. His chest ached with homesickness. He turned on his side, trying to force himself into sleep. His body begged for rest, but his mind would not stop. Then suddenly he felt the bed shift. The mattress dipped behind him, and a weight pressed close. Before he could react, long arms slipped around his chest, pulling him into a firm, warm hold. Daniel's whole body went rigid. His breath caught in his throat. It was Lyra. She pressed against his back, curling around him like a protective wall. Her breath was slow, warm against his neck. Her arms tightened gently, not crushing but secure, as if she was afraid he might slip away. Daniel's thoughts exploded. What the hell is happening? Why is she in my bed? He opened his mouth to protest, but before the words came, he heard her voice. Soft, sleepy, barely above a whisper. Soft, warm, safe. His heart slammed against his ribs. She wasn't awake. Or if she was, she wasn't fully. She was murmuring, half lost in dreams already. Daniel stared into the darkness, his face burning with heat. He had never been held like this before, not since he was a child. The weight of her arms, the steady rhythm of her breathing, the strange but comforting warmth of her body, it all wrapped around him, anchoring him in a way he hadn't realized he needed. He could push her away. He should push her away. It was strange, too strange, and yet he didn't, because for the first time since leaving Earth, the loneliness in his chest eased. He didn't feel so cold anymore. Slowly, his body relaxed. His racing heart steadied. His eyelids grew heavy, and before he could question it any longer, Daniel fell asleep in her arms. When morning came, sunlight slipped through the window, painting soft lines across the floor. Daniel woke with a start, realizing he was still in her embrace. Lyra's eyes fluttered open at the same time. For a second, they simply stared at each other in silence. Daniel's mouth opened, but no words came. He expected her to laugh or apologize or at least explain. Instead, she blinked slowly and said in her calm voice, "Did you sleep well?" Daniel hesitated. His cheeks burned, but he nodded. "Yeah, actually I did," Lyra smiled. Soft, small, but real. Then she released him, stretching her long limbs as if nothing unusual had happened. She hummed her morning tune, preparing her things for the day. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, stunned. He wasn't sure what just happened, but deep inside, he knew one thing. That was the first night he hadn't felt completely alone. The second night came with the same nervous energy. Daniel had told himself the first time was just a mistake. Maybe Lyra didn't even realize what she was doing. Maybe it was a cultural accident, a slip of habit. She had been half asleep after all. Surely she wouldn't do it again, so he prepared himself. He lay on his side of the room, hugging his blanket tight, waiting for sleep. He listened to the faint humming of the vents, the soft clicks of the building's machines. Across the room he could hear Lyra moving, the rustle of her sheets. For a while it was quiet. Daniel thought, see, she's staying in her bed tonight. But then, like before, the mattress dipped. A shadow shifted beside him. Strong arms wrapped around him again, pulling him into her chest like he was a pillow. Daniel froze. His cheeks flushed hot in the dark. He wanted to speak, but then he heard it. Her soft sigh, deep and content. Within moments, her breathing slowed. She was asleep. This time, Daniel didn't fight it. He lay there, stiff at first, then slowly relaxing as the warmth sank into him. His heart calmed. His restless thoughts dimmed. And before he knew it, he was asleep again. The third night, it happened once more. And the fourth. And the fifth, it became a pattern, a rhythm of their life. Daniel would brush his teeth, climb into bed, and wait. Some nights, he even caught himself counting the minutes until she came. And every time, without fail, she would slip into his bed, curl around him, and hold him like something precious. At first, he thought it was strange, even embarrassing. What would people think if they knew? But little by little, he began to notice something else. He slept better. Back on Earth, Daniel had always struggled with sleep. His mind raced at night, spinning with worries, memories, and plans. Some nights, he lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling. But now, with Lyra's arms wrapped around him, sleep came easily. Her breathing was steady like a lullaby. Her warmth drove away the cold. And her hold made him feel safe. He didn't want to admit it, but he liked it. During the day, life continued. Daniel went to classes, studied, and met other students from different planets. Lyra attended her own courses, often carrying stacks of glowing data sheets. They weren't always together, but whenever their paths crossed, she greeted him with a small, gentle smile. She didn't mention the nights. Not once. She acted as if nothing unusual happened, as if sharing a bed was the most natural thing in the world. Daniel, on the other hand, thought about it constantly. Sometimes he wondered if she thought of him as a pet, a little earth creature she could cuddle to sleep. The thought made his pride ache. But then he remembered the way she sighed in relief, the way she relaxed only when holding him. That didn't feel like using him, it felt honest. It was like she needed him just as much as he needed her. One evening, as Daniel was tidying his side of the room, he noticed something. Lyra was lying on her bed, trying to rest early. She turned from side to side, her limbs restless, her breathing uneven. Her eyes remained open, staring at the ceiling. Minutes passed. She didn't fall asleep. Daniel realized what was happening. On nights when she didn't hold him, she couldn't rest. When she finally gave up and sat upright, her shoulders drooped, tired and heavy. She rubbed her eyes, letting out a frustrated hum. Daniel looked at her, his chest tightening. He didn't say anything, but that night when she came into his bed again, he understood. She wasn't doing it for fun. She was doing it because without him, sleep never came. Days turned into weeks. What started as strange became normal. Daniel no longer stiffened when she joined him at night. He no longer thought of it as an invasion. Instead, he found himself leaning into her warmth, adjusting his pillow so her arms fit comfortably around him. Sometimes she murmured in her sleep. Words in her own language, soft and tender, sounds he didn't understand but felt deep in his chest. Other times she simply sighed, the kind of sigh that came from someone finding peace after a long day. For Daniel, the habit grew into comfort. He no longer dreaded the nights in a foreign city. Instead, he waited for them, knowing that no matter how hard the day had been, it would end with warmth, safety, and closeness. But he wasn't blind. He knew it couldn't stay a secret forever. Humans talked. Students gossiped. If anyone found out, they'd laugh, just like his friends on Earth had joked. "You're a grown man," they'd say. "And you let your roommate cuddle you like a stuffed animal?" The thought made his stomach twist. And yet every night when Lyra's arms wrapped around him, the shame faded, the laughter of imaginary voices vanished. The only thing that mattered was the steady rhythm of her heart and the way her presence pushed away the emptiness. He thought about telling her to stop. He thought about setting boundaries, about being proper, but each time the words never came. Because deep down, Daniel didn't want her to stop. One night, as he lay there in her arms, he whispered into the dark, not sure if she could hear. "Why does this feel so right?" Lyra stirred faintly but didn't wake. Her hold tightened slightly, as if answering without words. Daniel closed his eyes, realizing something he hadn't dared admit until then. He wasn't just letting her hold him. He needed it. He needed her, and maybe, just maybe, she needed him too. Daniel had been holding his questions inside for days. Nights blurred into weeks, and the habit of Lyra curling around him had become a quiet rhythm of their lives. He had tried to ignore the curiosity gnawing at him, but it had grown too loud to ignore. One evening, as the artificial sunset bathed their room in soft amber light, Daniel found her sitting on the floor, sorting through her glowing data sheets. Her long limbs curved gracefully around her knees, and her eyes, those deep violet pools, looked distant, almost sad. He swallowed nervously. His heart was pounding with a mix of fear and anticipation. "Lyra," he began softly, "can I ask you something?" She looked up at him, her expression calm, expectant. She tilted her head slightly, her silver hair glinting in the fading light. "Of course," she replied. Her voice was like a gentle song, smooth and melodic. He hesitated, his hands twisting together in his lap. Why do you hold me every night? Why do you curl around me like I'm your toy or something?" For a moment she didn't answer. She simply stared at him with those large, unblinking eyes, and Daniel felt an uncomfortable weight settle over him. Then she sighed. A long, soft sound that made him pause. She motioned for him to sit beside her on the floor. Tentatively he did. "My kind," she began, her words slow, careful, as if shaping them to be understood. "We are born in nests, always touching, always held. From the moment we hatch, we know warmth and comfort and safety from the embrace of others." Daniel listened intently, trying to imagine a world so different from his own. "So you grew up always held?" "Yes," she said softly. Her hands rested gently on her knees. "When we are separated, we cannot sleep. We cannot rest. Our bodies, our minds, they ache for touch. When I left home, I lost that comfort. I lost the sense of peace that comes from being close to someone else." Daniel felt his chest tighten. He had known she was different, but he hadn't realized just how deep her need for connection ran. "I thought maybe you needed someone to hold," Daniel said, almost whispering. "Maybe you were lonely." Lyra's violet eyes glimmered with emotion. "It is more than loneliness. Without touch, I cannot rest. I cannot dream. I cannot be myself." Her voice trembled slightly. "When I hold you, I remember sleep. I remember peace. I remember home." Daniel's throat went dry. Her words sank into him, heavy and tender. She wasn't using him. She wasn't playing a game. She needed him, not as a pet, not as a toy, but as a bridge to the comfort she had lost. He swallowed. The realization hit him like a wave. All this time he had worried about what it looked like, what others might think. But she wasn't thinking of appearances. She was thinking of survival, of rest, of peace. I didn't know," he said softly, his voice breaking a little. "I thought maybe it was strange. Maybe I was just a pillow to you." Lyra shook her head, a small, sad smile touching her lips. "No, not a pillow. Not a toy. You are warm. You are soft. You are alive. You are real, and I need what is real." Daniel blinked back sudden tears. He had never felt so seen, so understood by anyone, not even humans he had grown up with. He reached out slowly, hesitating before brushing his hand along hers. She leaned into him instinctively, as if the contact was as natural as breathing. "I don't know how to explain it," she whispered. "I do not mean to be selfish. I know it may seem strange to you. I know it may frighten or confuse you, but it is the only way I can rest, the only way I can feel whole." Daniel felt something break inside him, a mix of relief, empathy, and understanding. He wanted to tell her that it was okay, that he didn't mind, that he Wanted to help. You're not selfish, he said, voice low. I think I understand now, and I want to help too. Her gaze met his, wide and shimmering. A flicker of hope passed through her eyes. You do? Yes, he said firmly. I don't know why or how or what it means to anyone else, but I say when I hold you, I feel calm too. I feel safe, I think. Maybe we need each other. For a long moment, they just sat there, side by side, the room quiet except for the soft hum of the air filters. Daniel could feel the warmth of her body radiating even through the small distance between them. He realized then that she had trusted him with something deeply personal, something no human had ever asked for or shared with him. Lyra's lips curved into a small, genuine smile. She leaned closer, tentatively resting her head on his shoulder. Daniel stiffened for only a second before he let himself relax. Can we try tonight? She asked softly. Can you let me hold you again? Daniel nodded, heart pounding. Yes. That night when Lyra climbed into bed, Daniel did not flinch. He didn't worry. He didn't question. He simply allowed himself to be held, to be warm, to be safe. As she curled around him, murmuring softly in her own language, Daniel realized something profound. Connection was not about appearance or convention. Connection was about trust, about presence, about the quiet acceptance of someone else's needs and letting them accept yours in return. And in that embrace, Daniel felt an unspoken bond forming, a bond that went beyond species, beyond language, beyond logic. Two souls reaching for the same comfort, finding it in each other. For the first time in weeks, Daniel slept deeply. The weight of the unknown city, the loneliness of a new life, all melted away beneath the simple, undeniable truth. They were not alone. Lyra held him close, and in doing so, she gave him something more than warmth. She gave him a reason to feel at home, even when everything else felt alien. And Daniel, in turn, realized that sometimes the strongest bonds were the ones you never saw coming, the ones built in quiet nights, in shared warmth, in the silent understanding that someone else truly needs you, and you need them back. That night, sleep came easy, and for the first time, Daniel welcomed it with a full heart. The next morning, Daniel woke to the same quiet hum of the academy. The sunlight poured through the window, painting Lyra's lavender skin in soft, warm tones. For a moment, everything felt perfect. The night had passed peacefully. No awkwardness, no confusion, just the calm, safe warmth of shared sleep. But the world outside their room was not so forgiving. As Daniel walked through the halls, he overheard the whispers almost immediately. Did you hear about Daniel? One student said, laughing. They say he lets his alien roommate cuddle him every night. Another replied, snickering. Daniel froze mid-step. His face heated. He wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor. Cuddle? He muttered under his breath. No, that's not. They don't understand. He knew that Lyra didn't care about appearances, and he had promised himself he wouldn't either. But the sound of laughter, the pointed glances, the disbelief, it was like a weight pressing down on him. He felt small, foolish, exposed. By the time he reached the cafeteria, Daniel's confidence had crumbled. He picked a corner table and tried to focus on breakfast, but his stomach twisted with unease. Every glance, every chuckle from passing students made him feel as if the walls were closing in. And all the while, his mind replayed Lyra's soft arms around him, the trust she had shown, the peace she had brought. The conflict was tearing him apart. On one side there was Lyra, the alien who needed him, who found comfort only in his presence. On the other, there was the pressure of human social norms, of embarrassment, of judgment. Daniel didn't know which side to choose. That evening, he tried to act normal. He ate dinner quietly, pretended to focus on his studies, and avoided Lyra's gaze. But when bedtime came, everything changed. Lyra climbed into bed as usual, silently wrapping her arms around him. But Daniel stiffened immediately. He shifted slightly away, trying to create distance. His mind screamed at him, "This is ridiculous. You're a grown man. You can't just let her hold you like a toy. People would think." She noticed instantly. Lyra's violet eyes opened halfway. Her brow furrowed slightly, just a little, but it was enough to pierce Daniel's resolve. "Too warm?" she asked softly, her voice careful, hesitant. Daniel shook his head quickly. "No, maybe we shouldn't do this anymore," he said. the words tasting bitter as they left his mouth. The silence that followed was heavier than any weight Daniel had ever felt. Lyra slowly pulled back, curling on her side, her back facing him. Her breathing became shallow, uneven. For the first time, Daniel noticed the faint quiver in her limbs, the tension in her shoulders. His chest tightened painfully. The sound of her soft sighs, small and trembling, made his stomach twist. I didn't mean to. He started, but the words faltered. Lyra didn't respond. She simply remained curled, a fragile shadow of herself. The room felt colder than ever. Daniel realized the enormity of what he had done. He had chosen embarrassment over compassion, judgment over connection, and now she was hurting because of it. He swallowed hard. His hands shook slightly as he reached toward her, but she flinched instinctively, pulling even tighter into herself. Daniel's heart ached. The thought of Lyra, restless, sleepless, lost without him, it was unbearable. Hours passed. Daniel lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling like he had failed in the simplest, most human way. Why did I let it matter what others think? He asked himself silently.
She needs me.
And I need her. Why did I even hesitate? Outside, the city's lights flickered, alien and distant. Inside, the silence was crushing. Every shadow on the walls, every whisper of the air system felt amplified. He could hear the quiet sobs he had tried to ignore. Lyra's body trembled just slightly with every breath, a delicate reminder of her vulnerability. Finally, Daniel could take it no longer. He swung his legs over the side of the bed and stood, feeling the alien carpet beneath his feet. He knelt beside her, carefully reaching out. Lyra, he whispered, voice shaking. I was wrong. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was scared. Scared of what others might think, but I don't care anymore. She looked at him, her large violet eyes glimmering in the dim light. For a moment, she didn't move. Her breathing remained uneven, her small quivers visible. Then slowly she turned toward him, allowing him to hold her hand. You mean it? She asked softly, almost disbelieving. Yes, he said firmly. I do. I don't care if it's strange. I don't care if anyone else thinks it's weird. You need me. And I need you too. Lyra's eyes shimmered with tears she didn't try to hide. She whispered something in her own language, soft and melodic, that Daniel didn't understand. But the meaning was clear. Relief, trust, acceptance. Without another word, she curled into him once more, allowing herself to be held. Daniel wrapped his arms around her, careful, firm, yet gentle. He felt the tension drain from her body as she exhaled slowly, deeply. And in that moment, Daniel realized something. Sometimes the hardest battles aren't fought outside. They're fought inside, against fear, against embarrassment, against the weight of judgment, and sometimes winning those battles means choosing compassion, trust and connection over fear. That night, sleep came differently. There were no awkward pauses, no hesitation, no second guessing. Just warmth, safety, and shared trust. Daniel realized the power of the bond they shared. Not just as roommates, not just as different species, but as two beings who found solace in each other's presence. Outside, the city lights glimmered like distant stars. Inside, two hearts beat in quiet harmony, proving that sometimes courage isn't about facing danger or enemies. It's about being honest, choosing empathy and holding on to someone who needs you, even when the world seems to mock it. And in that embrace, Daniel felt something he had never felt before. The strength that comes from not standing alone but from letting someone else lean on you, and leaning on them in return. Days passed, but the memory of that night, the night Daniel had chosen trust over fear, lingered in both of them. The rhythm of their lives continued, yet a subtle tension shadowed their quiet connection. Daniel noticed it first during the small moments. Lyra's soft sighs in the middle of the day, her long fingers trembling slightly as she worked. The occasional distant look in her violet eyes, as if she were somewhere far away. He didn't speak of it at first. He didn't know how. Humans were not supposed to witness alien vulnerability in such raw, quiet forms. And yet, he felt it pressing against him, drawing him in. One evening, Daniel returned from classes to find Lyra sitting on the floor near her bed, her legs tucked under her. Her data sheets were scattered around her, untouched, glowing softly. She didn't look up when he entered. Lyra? He asked gently. She flinched slightly, then turned her head, revealing eyes that shimmered with exhaustion. Her skin, normally so vibrant under the room's lights, seemed dull and pale, almost translucent. I can't sleep, she said finally, her voice trembling. Not tonight. Not without. She trailed off, glancing down at the floor. Daniel's heart clenched. He stepped closer slowly. Without me? He asked softly. She nodded, swallowing hard. I tried to stay in my own bed. I tried to be proper, but she buried her face in her hands. I am restless. I am incomplete. I feel lost. Daniel crouched beside her, careful not to overwhelm her. He didn't reach out immediately. He simply let her words sink in, the weight of them settling between them. You don't have to be proper with me, he said gently. You don't have to pretend. You can need me. You can trust me. Lyra lifted her head slightly. Her eyes glimmered, wet with unshed tears. You mean that? She whispered. Yes, he said. I've always meant it. And now I understand. I shouldn't let fear or embarrassment stop me from being here for you. Her body trembled slightly and she let out a small, shuddering breath. Daniel noticed how fragile she looked, how tiny and vulnerable her figure seemed, even though she was taller than him. The sight broke something inside him, a mixture of love, protectiveness, and empathy. I'm scared, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Without you, I feel adrift. Like I am nothing. And every time I try to stay apart, I fail. Daniel reached out slowly, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. His fingers grazed her soft skin, careful, reverent. Then don't be apart, he said. You don't have to be alone. You don't have to be strong all the time. You can let me help. You can let me hold you. She froze for a moment as if surprised by the offer. Then slowly she leaned toward him. Her trembling hands found his shoulders, and before he realized it, she was pressing herself into him, curling around him in a familiar embrace. Daniel's own chest ached with the intensity of the moment. Her trust, her vulnerability, her desperate need, it was overwhelming yet profoundly beautiful. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her carefully, firmly, letting her weight settle against him. Shh, he whispered. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. You're safe. Her small sighs of relief, the quiet trembling that slowly eased into steadier breathing, told him she believed him. For the first time, Daniel saw just how much she depended on him, not just for sleep, but for emotional survival, for peace, for comfort. The night stretched on, quiet except for the sound of their breaths mingling. Daniel felt the rise and fall of her chest, the subtle movements of her limbs as she adjusted herself into a more comfortable position. Every small detail spoke volumes, the trust she placed in him, the relief of being held, the unspoken bond that had grown between them. In that moment, Daniel realized something he hadn't admitted even to himself before. He needed her too. Her presence calmed the anxiety he hadn't even known he carried. Her trust gave him a sense of purpose, a connection he had never felt with anyone before. He held her longer than usual that night, letting the silence between them speak the words neither could find. He let himself feel the warmth, the fragile vulnerability, the quiet weight of responsibility and love. Hours later, as the first glow of the Academy's artificial morning light seeped into the room, Lyra shifted slightly, burying her face into his chest. Her breathing was calm, steady. For the first time in days, she had slept peacefully. Daniel lay awake a little longer, staring at the soft shimmer of her skin in the morning light. He understood now more than ever the depth of their bond. It wasn't just a habit or a cultural quirk. It was survival. It was trust. It was something far deeper than either of them had words for, and he knew, without a doubt, that he would never let her feel alone again, not if he could help it, because in holding her he held more than just her body. He held her peace, her comfort, her home away from home, and in turn she held his heart in ways he hadn't known possible. That night and every night after, the routine continued. But Daniel's understanding had deepened. The embrace was no longer strange, no longer awkward. It was sacred, two beings from different worlds finding solace in one another. Two souls, fragile yet strong, tethered together by warmth, trust, and unspoken promises. And as sleep finally claimed them both, Daniel realized something essential. The galaxy could be vast, alien and lonely, but here, in this small room, they were never truly alone. The Academy's halls buzzed with life, but Daniel barely noticed. His thoughts were consumed by the quiet bond that had grown between him and Lyra. Each day, The world around them felt less important than the small universe they shared in that room. The soft hum of machines, the glow of alien data sheets, the gentle rise and fall of breathing in the dark. That evening, Daniel returned from classes with a heaviness he couldn't shake. For days he had wrestled with his own insecurities, the teasing of other students, and the lingering fear that what they shared was somehow wrong. But seeing Lyra's small, tired figure waiting on the floor, her violet eyes glimmering with quiet anticipation, he realized something important. It wasn't wrong. It wasn't strange. It was real. Lyra looked up as he entered, her gaze soft but searching. She didn't move, waiting, knowing he would come closer. Daniel swallowed the lump in his throat and walked toward her. I want to be with you tonight, he said simply, his voice low but steady. I don't care what anyone thinks. I don't care if it's strange. I just want to be with you. For a moment her eyes widened, glimmering with surprise and relief. Then she nodded slowly. Her long arms reached for him instinctively, and Daniel allowed himself to be pulled into her embrace. As she curled around him, her body warm and fragile against his, Daniel felt the weight of her trust settle into his chest. She buried her face into his shoulder, shivering slightly, and he held her tighter. You can let me hold you, he whispered. You don't have to be strong all the time. I'll be here. Her soft sigh was almost a song. She trembled against him, small shivers of relief traveling through her body. In that moment, Daniel felt the enormity of what they shared. It wasn't just comfort. It wasn't just warmth. It was trust, raw and unfiltered, given freely from one soul to another. Hours passed in silence, the quiet hum of the room and their synchronized breathing the only sounds. Daniel felt her relax completely in his arms, her trembling slowing until it was almost imperceptible. Her trust, her vulnerability, even her fears, they all lay in his hands now, delicate and precious. He realized then that she had chosen him not because she needed a pillow or a toy, but because she needed someone to anchor her, someone to remind her that she was not alone in this vast, alien galaxy. And in that moment he understood something essential about himself. He didn't just want to help her. He needed her too. Her presence calmed the gnawing fear he had carried since leaving Earth. Her trust gave him a sense of purpose, of connection, of belonging he had never experienced before. I'm here, he whispered again, pressing a gentle kiss to the top of her head. I'll never let you feel alone again. Lyra's body pressed closer. She murmured softly in her language, words Daniel didn't understand but felt deep in his chest. The tone was tender, full of relief, and it made him smile despite the tears brimming in his eyes. They stayed like that for hours, not speaking, not needing to. Every small movement, every gentle sigh, every heartbeat communicated more than words could. Daniel traced small patterns along her back with his fingers, feeling the fragile tension that still lingered slowly melt away under his touch. When the first glow of the academy's morning light seeped through the window, they were still entwined. Lyra's breathing was calm, deep, her body finally at ease. Daniel realized he had spent the night holding more than just her body. He had held her peace, her trust, her quiet happiness, and she had held his heart in return. It wasn't just about sleep anymore. It was about belonging, about knowing someone would always be there, no matter the fear, the embarrassment, or the chaos of the world outside. For the first time, Daniel didn't feel like an outsider on this foreign planet. He didn't feel small, alone, or out of place. He felt grounded, connected, alive, and he knew that Lyra felt the same. I love being with you, he said softly, careful not to disturb her rest yet unable to hold back the truth. She stirred slightly, tilting her head up to look at him, violet eyes wide and luminous. You do? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper, full of wonder. Yes, he said, nodding. I don't know how else to say it. You make me feel safe, and I want to make you feel safe too. Her lips curved into the smallest smile, radiant yet fragile. She buried her face into his chest once more, sighing softly. Daniel pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead, letting her feel his warmth, his heartbeat, and his promise. In that quiet room, in the embrace of two souls from different worlds, Daniel realized the truth. Sometimes the greatest strength isn't in facing the world alone. Sometimes it's in letting someone hold you, and letting yourself hold them in return. The galaxy outside might be vast, cold, and lonely, But in that little room, in the quiet rhythm of shared warmth, they had found something eternal, a bond that needed no words, no explanation, no approval from anyone else. For the first time, Daniel understood that love and trust were universal. They transcended species, language, and culture. They existed wherever two beings chose to see each other, to hold each other, and to protect each other from the emptiness of the universe. And in that moment, as they lay entwined in the quiet of early morning, Daniel vowed silently, not to the world, not to anyone else, but to Lyra, that he would never let her feel alone again, because some bonds were stronger than fear, stronger than embarrassment, stronger than the galaxy itself, and theirs was one of them. The days that followed were different. There was a quiet understanding between Daniel and Lyra that went deeper than words. It wasn't spoken aloud, but it didn't need to be. Every glance, every small movement, every soft sigh carried the weight of their bond. They moved through the academy together, not always side by side, but always aware of each other. Daniel watched Lyra in her daily routines, noticing the subtle ways she adapted to this alien world yet still carried traces of her vulnerability. And Lyra watched him too, her violet eyes glimmering with quiet reassurance. At night, the embrace continued. Daniel no longer felt awkward, nor did he think of what others might say. There was only the quiet warmth, the steady rhythm of breathing, and the unspoken promise of being there for one another. But one night, something changed. Daniel had been restless before bedtime, his mind wandering over the city, over classes, over the world outside their room. He climbed into bed, expecting the usual routine, expecting Lyra's arms to find him. But tonight she hesitated. Her violet eyes studied him in the dim glow of the room. "Daniel," she murmured, voice soft, almost trembling. I want to tell you something." "Something important." Daniel shifted closer, his heart tightening. "What is it?" he asked gently. She took a deep breath. "Back on my planet, we are taught that relying on someone else is a weakness, that showing vulnerability is shameful, but I cannot be strong without you. You have taught me that it is not weakness to need someone. It is human." Daniel's chest ached with emotion. He reached out, brushing a hand over her shoulder. "You're not weak," he said softly. "You've been brave all along, brave enough to trust me, to let me be here with you. That's not weakness. That's the strongest thing anyone can do." Tears glimmered in her violet eyes. She rested her head against his chest, shivering slightly. Daniel held her tighter, feeling the fragility and strength in the same breath. "You've made me feel safe," she whispered. "Safe to be myself, safe to sleep, safe to exist, and I want to be safe for you too." Daniel's heart swelled. He had never felt such profound connection with anyone before. Not humans, not family, not friends. But here, in this quiet room on an alien world, he felt it fully, completely, in the simplest, most human way. "You already are," he whispered, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. "And I feel safe too, with you, because we face the world together. No matter what anyone else thinks, no matter how strange it may seem, we're here, together." Lyra sighed softly, curling into him fully. Her long arms wrapped around him, and this time Daniel didn't hesitate. He returned the embrace, holding her with careful strength, letting her vulnerability rest in his hands. Hours passed in silence. The quiet hum of the academy, the soft glow of distant lights, and the rhythm of their breathing became their world. It was simple, yet complete. Daniel realized that the galaxy outside could be vast, cold, and indifferent. But in this small room they had built something permanent. Something stronger than distance, stronger than fear, stronger than loneliness. And in that moment, Daniel understood the truest lesson of all. Strength is not in standing alone. Strength is in connection. Strength is in allowing yourself to trust, to care, to be needed, and to need in return. He had come to this alien world expecting uncertainty, expecting challenges, expecting isolation. But instead he had found home, not a place, not a planet, not even a person entirely like himself, but a soul. Lyra's violet eyes opened slightly, watching him with quiet curiosity. "Daniel," she murmured, her voice barely audible. "Do humans often find strength in others?" Daniel smiled softly, brushing her hair back. "Yes," he said. "They do, and maybe that's what makes us strong." Not being alone, but finding someone we can trust completely, someone we can lean on, someone we can hold and who holds us back. Her lips curved into a small, genuine smile, the kind that lit up her entire being. She pressed her forehead gently to his chest. "Then, thank you," she whispered, "for being my strength." Daniel felt tears prick his eyes. "And thank you," he said, "for being mine." Outside, the galaxy stretched endlessly, filled with stars and planets, civilizations and wonders. But inside their quiet room there was warmth and trust and belonging. Daniel knew that whatever the universe threw at them, curious classmates, alien cultures, endless nights away from Earth, they could face it together. Because together, they were stronger than anything the galaxy could throw at them. That night, when they finally fell asleep in each other's arms, Daniel realized he had never slept so peacefully, nor felt so alive. He had found more than comfort. He had found family. He had found love. He had found home. And in the quiet glow of the alien room, two hearts beat in harmony, proving something simple and extraordinary. No matter how vast the universe, no matter how alien the world may seem, connection, human or otherwise, is what makes life worth living. And sometimes, the strongest humans are those who dare to trust, to hold, and to let themselves be held. For Daniel and Lyra, it wasn't just a habit anymore. It was a promise, a bond unbroken, a home they had built in each other, stronger than the stars themselves. The galaxy could be infinite, the planets countless, the species unimaginable. But in the small, quiet moments of trust and warmth, they had found the greatest power of all, each other. And that was enough.